In this section of training, we are going to explore orthography. We'll begin by introducing some important terms, provide a summary of the research on the speech-to-print progression, and provide a brief video demonstration of a bee checker. Participants enrolled in the basic training will need cards from Deck 8, 8.22 to 8.29. Participants enrolled in the kindergarten training will need cards K.80 to K.83 from the kindergarten basic deck. Let's begin by going over some important terms. Phonology is the study of sounds in a spoken language. We've talked at length about that topic already in training. We're now shifting our focus to orthography, or the study of the written system of language. Not all languages have an orthographic system. There are still some languages in the world today that only have an oral form. Let's explore the difference between the terms letter, phoneme, and grapheme. In English, there are 26 letters, A to Z. Those 26 letters are used to produce 44 different phonemes, or speech sounds. A phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. Below, you'll see 3 different phonemes represented: I, E, Ch. In our training, anytime you see a letter or letters represented between slash marks, that means we're referencing the sound of the letter and not the actual letter or letters themselves. A straight line across the top of a vowel, macron, indicates the long sound. A semicircle symbol, breve, indicates the short sound. Graphemes are the letter or letters used to spell that phoneme or sound. Let's look at the 3 examples below. The phoneme I could be represented by the following graphemes: I, IE, IGH, Y, IE, or YE. You'll see that there are many more ways of spelling the sound. The phoneme E also has many different graphemes that can be used to represent that sound in English: E, EE, EA, etc. The phoneme Ch has only 2 possible graphemes for representing those sounds: CH and TCH. The diagram on the screen comes from Louisa Moat's Letters program. It illustrates the relationship between phonology and orthography. At the top half of the screen in the phonology section, notice how it progresses from larger units to smaller units. Through phonological awareness and phonemic awareness drills, students are first exposed to sentence-level work, then words, breaking words down to smaller units, with the goal of eventually manipulating and isolating individual phonemes. When students are comfortable at the individual phoneme level, they have reached the one-to-one level, where they attach letters to sounds or graphemes to phonemes, and phonics instruction begins. Looking at the bottom portion of this diagram, you'll see that we start working our way from individual letters to larger units of orthography: digraphs, trigraphs, and eventually working on roots and affixes. Within the topic of orthography, it's important for us to begin talking about the letters of the alphabet. There are many letters in our alphabet that can be easily confused. The 2 most common confusions occur around the lowercase b and lowercase d. Some students also confuse the letters P and Q, U and N, M and W. Another important point to be aware of is that when you're working on letter recognition skills, priority should be given to lowercase letters. Over 97% of all written text is in its lowercase form. Therefore, students need to be more automatic on recognizing lowercase letters than capital letters. In order to understand why some students struggle with letter recognition, it's helpful to see how our brain processes this visual information. Looking at the diagram at the bottom of the screen, we have a very simplistic view of regions of the brain dedicated for visual processing. One of the things that our brain is designed to do is to process through visual flexibility. That means that we can look at an object from several different angles and still know that we're looking at the same object. The cup example at the bottom of your screen is a simple way of illustrating this. Once we identify that an object is a cup, no matter how it is turned or placed on a table, we'll know that it is still a cup. Another example would be in teaching a young student that this round beach ball is called a ball. They're able to generalize and know that a soccer ball and a baseball and another round object that has similar attributes is also a ball, without us having to explicitly teach each one of those objects and what it is named. So again, visual flexibility is a valuable skill, but visual flexibility doesn't support us in letter recognition. If we take a ball and a stick, we can make the letter B, but if we change its orientation and its placement on a page, we have three completely different letters, B, D, and P. Another way to illustrate this concept of visual flexibility not supporting us in letter recognition is the classic chair example. Again, from an object recognition perspective, no matter how we change the placement of a chair, it is still a chair. Back to our ball and stick, if we replicate the same placement as the chair with the ball and stick, it gives us an entirely different letter. Due to this, these four letters can be problematic for students. B and D cause the biggest problem. We have a tool to support students in differentiating B and D. We teach students to use their B checker. Their B checker is their left hand, which they will use to line up to identify if the letter they're looking at is a B. If it's a B, they simply respond B, or recognize that it is a B and produce the sound. If they identify that it's not a B, the first step is saying not a B, and then determining which letter choice is correct. Note the language that we're using and why. Just because it is not a B doesn't mean the letter is a D. They may need their B checker to differentiate between B and P. A couple of tips we'll offer in the demonstration video will support how you might instruct students to identify the letter as the second step.
All right, so we are going to demonstrate how to teach the B checker to students. So the first thing we want to do is to make sure that they know their left hand, because the B checker is always the left hand. So in a kindergarten setting or a whole group setting, we generally have some kids that struggle with knowing their left to right. So something that you can do is you can turn your back and you can hold up your left hand. And then you can ask children to hold up that hand as well. So Shannon, would you hold up that hand that I'm holding up? Very good. You can also sometimes say, like, let's say there's a window over here. So, hold up the hand that's closest to the window. Just be aware that you'll have some kids, especially little kindergartners, that will take their right hand and try to reach over. So after you demonstrate the left hand, turn around, and then make sure that everybody has their left hand up. If you have students that struggle with their left hand, remembering which one it is, you can always ask parents for some help. Maybe the students can wear a watch or a bracelet on their left hand, and that's a visual reminder for them. All right, after you have your left hand, and so Shannon, can you hold up your left hand? Then you're going to show them how to align your hand to the letter. So we want, first of all, to make the B checker correctly. So when we make the B checker, our fingers are together, our thumb is sticking out. Very nice, Shannon. And then we hold up the card, and we want our fingers right next to the line of the letter. That bottom part of the line will go between your index finger and your thumb, and that's very important. So now I have a circle that's resting on my thumb. That means that this is a B. What is it?
A B.
Good. So now I'm going to take another letter and I'm going to put it up. And again, I want my index finger and I want this part here, the bottom part, right between my index finger and my thumb. Line it up. And now I don't have a ball resting on my thumb. So this is not a B. What is it?
Not a B.
Good job. And then what you can do once you've demonstrated, then you can practice. And you have in your deck some B checker cards. In the kindergarten deck, it's in their basic deck. And in the first grade and up deck, it's in the deck 8. So you will hold up the cards, and then you'll ask the students to hold up their B checkers. Again, you may have to go through that all over again, showing where their left hand is and how to make it. And then you want them to eyeball it. So right now, Shannon is eyeballing that letter. Shannon, is this a B or not a B?
B.
Very good. B or not a B? Good. B or not a B?
B.
B or not a B?
Not a B.
And that's important that you use that language, B or not a B. When students know that this letter is a D, then after they say not a B, then you can ask them, what is that letter? And then they can tell you that it's a D. All right, so that is our demonstration. So let's just kind of review. So with the B checker, when you're teaching to students, the first thing you're going to do is make sure that they know their left hand. And I showed you how you can turn your back and hold up your hand, and the children model what you're doing. Then you want to make sure that they hold their B checker correctly, fingers together, thumb out, that they know how to align their hand to it. And then we use that language, B or not a B. Now, we also have cards that have words on them. And you can also have children go ahead and eyeball those letters, and they can say, Shannon, what's this letter?
B.
Good.
B.
Good. Is this a B or not a B?
Not a B.
Okay, so you can use those as well. And the reason we have these in here, the words, is because our goal is for children to be able to read words with B's and D's and read them correctly, because we do have several children that have B and D reversals. So that way they can use their B checker in their reading. They can also use their B checker in their writing. Another letter that some children struggle with is the letter P. So what you can do is you can hold up that letter. They can use their B checker. Again, the index finger is on the line, and then this part goes right between your index finger and your thumb. So if you look at that, that circle is not resting on my thumb, so it's not a B. Now that might be hard for some kids to see because they still see that ball right there near their thumb. So you may have to demonstrate, okay, now, but look at this letter. See how that ball's resting on my thumb? That's a B. And then we look at this one, it's not a B. So that is our B checker.
Some students also have difficulty when it comes to letter formation of lowercase b and d. They often form the stick on their paper, and then they stumble over which side the ball goes on. We suggest instruction in the different formation of B and D. Looking at the example at the bottom of your screen, note that each letter has a dot. That dot indicates the starting point for forming that letter. For forming a lowercase b, we start at the top, we pull down, then go back up and around. When we form a lowercase d, we have a different starting point. We start at the middle. We go up around, straight up, and back down. That starting point should support muscle memory so that when we're forming a B, we start at the top and we know which way to go. We'll always form the ball to the right. When we start a D, we have a completely different starting point, and that eliminates the confusion of forming the stick and trying to figure out which side the ball goes on. On the screen, you'll see a sample of all of the different B checker cards that we have available. This concludes the orthography component of training.